How has the demure iPad mini held up since it was released 6 months ago? Let's find out. The iPad mini and I have had kind of a rocky relationship. Sometimes I think it's the most useful thing that I've ever seen in my life. And some days, I literally do not understand why it exists, and I kind of regret buying it. But I think that's actually a good thing, right? If this were a boring, not useful piece of tech, I would forget it exists. It would just vanish in my closet, and I would never use it. Having extremes of opinion means that there is something here to be passionate about, and that's the whole reason we're making this follow-up today. Quick note, no one is sponsoring today's video, and nobody provided me this iPad in any way, shape, or form. This is my personal model that I purchased myself. So with that out of the way, let's get into what I've liked and disliked in 6 months of carrying this admittedly easy to carry around tablet with me. When we start with dislikes, the first thing I've disliked about this mini is something that I also dislike about the iPad Air. The base model storage capacity is just too low. 64 gigabytes of storage in 2022, that's not good. And it's not even like January 2022. We can't say, hey, it's the new year coming up real soon. We're still kind of in 2021. We are fully into this year, and the iPad mini is marked as new on Apple's website, and it has less storage than my SD cards. No, I don't think you need terabytes of storage on a mobile device because, I mean, how readily available the cloud is, but I would argue that 128 gigabytes of storage is the sweet spot, especially with how much it costs to upgrade storage in the Apple world. I get that Apple uses high quality memory and drives, but that doesn't make the price sting less. You could get up to a 256 gigabyte model, which overshoots that basic need, and that will then drive the price up to $649. And I'm sorry, but if we are now talking about $700, there are way better tablet options out there. I do think the iPad is well priced in the base model, and we will talk about this more in the things that I've liked, but dang. As Apple releases stuff in 2022, I hope all devices have a base of 128 gigabytes from here on out. The next thing I've disliked is something that I've disliked about this iPad from the start. The UI scaling for this thing just feels off, and it hasn't gotten better with software updates. And maybe that's something small to complain about, and I should start off with bigger things like, I don't know, screen resolution, or that jelly thing that everybody seems to complain about. And I've not really had a problem with that jellying, by the way. But you can't interact with a tablet without interacting with the UI, and the interface has always felt off. In its default mode, the icons are way too small, and maybe that's my almost 40-year-old eyes right here starting to lose their sharpness, but the icon, heck, everything feels too small using the default appearance. Yes, you can expand this out a bit by using larger text and larger icons, but then everything feels too big. Like the screen isn't designed to have its text and icons be that large, and now everything seems overly scrunched. And I get that argument sounds crazy. Like, Gary, you aren't happy when it's too small, and you aren't happy when it's too big. What? Come on, what's going on, guy? I don't know. And this is 100% in the realm of personal preference, but I don't like either way all that much. For comparison, the iPad Air has a more quote-unquote traditionally sized 10.9-inch screen, and everything fits perfectly in there. I've never had to adjust the icon or text size on that screen or any of the iPad Pro screens. Plus, because of the wonkiness of the UI scaling on either end of those spectrums, you end up having huge chunks of the screen just not be used for anything. I mean, look at this. It wouldn't be as big of a deal if tablets, especially Apple tablets, had more customization options. But they don't. You essentially, lose 20% of your screen real estate. See, as we talk about this for this video, I'm getting more and more frustrated, which is one of those, why did I ever use the darn thing feelings that I mentioned in the opening. Another thing that I haven't liked is the lack of a smart connection anywhere on the tablet. Part of owning an iPad or any tablet for me is being able to get some work done wherever I go. Be that working on emails, writing scripts for YouTube stuff, all sort of things that involve typing. Because there is no smart connector, that means no smart keyboard like the rest of the iPad lineup. Heck, like the rest of every tablet's lineup anymore. Even the cheaper iPad standard has a smart folio keyboard that you can buy. Yes, that partly has to do with the size of the iPad mini, and yes, you can always buy a Bluetooth keyboard to get that functionality. I mean, this is again a wholly personal preference thing. I like being able to immediately set my tablet down and start typing. Even browsing the internet is easier and better when you can type in websites or other text fields. And just typing on this is wonky because the way the screen is sized either way. There are some keyboard cases out there that function via Bluetooth, so let me know in the comments below if you would like me to check one of those out in the future. But even if you could get a keyboard case going with the Mini, I'm also skeptical that it would be of a decent size to actually get any typing done, because you can absolutely make a keyboard too small to work well. You might be saying to yourself, Gary, That sounds oddly like an overall complaint about the size of the Mini and less about any functionality concerns. And well done, team, we've cracked the code. The absolute worst part about the iPad Mini is the size. But conversely, the absolute best part about the iPad Mini is also the size. It's like the Jungian duality of man going on right here. The first thing I've really liked about the iPad Mini is its size. Holy crap, is this thing super light, and it's very easy to carry around. Like, it's the perfect fit between an iPhone, even an iPhone as big as the 13 Pro Max, and a computer. You get the bigger screen for watching movies or YouTube videos. You get more space if you have an app that controls certain other pieces of tech. For me, it's cameras and camera motion controllers. And quick aside note, this tablet is basically perfectly designed to manage cameras and all the things you might have surrounding said cameras. I always use this when I take B-rolls of products for these videos because it's so good. One of the things that I don't like about bigger tablets is how they come so close to just being the size of a laptop. And when you've hit that threshold, why wouldn't I just carry around a laptop, especially when something like the incredible MacBook Air exists for about what it would cost to get an iPad and a keyboard case. The Mini threads that needle very well by not really having a useful keyboard case to buy. Yes, I turned that negative into a positive. That's the power of positive thinking, folks. So you can't even buy a keyboard case, and the tablet is small enough to not feel like you are lugging around an extra laptop with your laptop all day long. And just carrying it around the house, keeping it at your desk while you are working on other things, that is a great little companion tool that is 100% aided by its size. Hence the Mini title, I guess. The next thing I've liked is the screen itself. Like I said, I haven't had problems with jellying. I have to go out of my way to find it. But that will be different for different people because I say this a lot in my videos, but different people are affected by visual stimuli differently. Yes, I know it doesn't have ProMotion, and yes, it doesn't have a fast refresh rate, and yes, I wish it had those, and you can notice it when you go from like the 13 Pro Max to the Mini, but we've got to accept the reality that comes with making a wholly new device. The production budget here went towards that redesign, and to keep it in the sub $500 category, you couldn't get everything. But what we got is actually very darn good. This has an 8.3-inch liquid retina display. It's fully laminated, and that means the display and the glass cover are all one piece. It can go up to 500 nits of brightness, and it just looks good. Yes, I've complained about the UI, but I've not yet complained about the screen itself. It's got enough contrast ratio to make watching movies enjoyable. The colors are snappy and accurate, and it's bright enough to work pretty much everywhere you could want a tablet to work. Plus, one of the things that I thought would be a problem with a small screen like this is the viewing angle. Because it's so small, I feel like it's very easy to be off axis from the main viewing angle. But even when I set this down and am looking or watching not directly in line with the screen, it still looks great. I think Apple's done a fantastic job here, making this look as good as it does while working within the technical constraints of an iPad Mini, but giving it an iPad Air kind of a feel. That leads into the next thing I've continued to like. That's the power. You might not notice, well, you definitely won't because you don't actually see the processor here, but this is one of the most powerful tablets on the market. This has the full-powered A15 Bionic inside of it, and yes, it has the upgraded, more powerful version that's in the 13 Pro and the 13 Pro Max iPhones, and not that one with the less GPU core in the 13 and 13 Mini. So in reality, this is also the cheapest way to get that most powerful cell phone processor. Everything on the iPad Mini feels snappy. Well, minus the refresh rate. Apps instantly load. There's never a stutter, and even games run very smoothly. You'd think having a smaller footprint would mean smaller performance, but Apple really put their best chip possible in here, and you can absolutely tell. Plus, with how iPads get updates, because this has the A15, you'll get updates on this tablet for years to come. I really think that it's possible to see a decade of software versions on all of the A15 lineup, because Moore's Law is slowing down, and even old devices today are pushing 7 years. A decade honestly doesn't seem that unrealistic or crazy, and these long timelines for OS and security updates are one of the main reasons why Apple has turned into such a dominant force. I love that Tab S8. It's blown me away by how much I like it. But Samsung doesn't own or develop the operating system. Apple owns everything that happens inside and outside of this device, for better and for worse. So they can tailor the software to run on their hardware and get performance and longevity games that nobody else can touch. The next thing I've liked is the price. Now, $499 isn't cheap. It's actually pretty darn expensive for something that I would classify as a nice to have. But when you compare the Mini to the rest of the tablet space, you get a lot for what you pay. For that money, you'll get that top of the line processor, a cutting edge tablet body, all the battery life you could want, and longevity that will probably keep this tablet relevant far longer than you'll actually want to own it. You put that all together, and I think they priced this really well. I honestly don't have another device that I could point you to without drastically increasing the price or the size. It's a very unique little machine that doesn't have much competition and is well priced for the competition it does have. And the last thing I want to mention that I've continued to like is that ultra-wide front-facing camera. This camera is what makes the latest iPads, in my opinion. Yes, I wish they would take a page out of Samsung's book and put it at the top of landscape orientation, but dang, this thing is amazing. You get a super wide field of view, which is perfect for taking meetings or having family time calls. And yes, I've taken a ton of meetings from the iPad mini over the past few months. I actually consider this my conferencing camera more than anything else. You can install all the major collaboration apps and just set this down and you connect it to the world of productivity. I think this is incredibly useful for both office workers or students if you need a standalone conferencing tool. You don't always need a standalone conferencing tool if you're fine with your built-in cameras and like your laptop or stuff, but this, combine the size of the tablet with that camera and it's wholly unique. You can't get a webcam anywhere else that can tie in as well as this thing does, and with all the other capabilities, forget about it. Plus, Apple's Center Stage allows for even more functionality from the camera, making sure it's either cropped in on you, widened out when there are more people in the screen, or it will follow you around if you are moving in the frame. Seriously, I think this feature alone is worth the price of admission. It's the best. So yes, after 6 months, I still have a love-hate relationship with the iPad mini. It doesn't have a general recommendation for me like other devices in the iPad lineup, but if you find yourself looking for the smallest, most powerful conferencing tablet or life manager that you can find, well, this is easily my top pick. But what about you? What do you think about the iPad mini? Have you had one for 6 months? Are you looking to get one? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video, but you are looking for a bigger tablet selection, you can find my video comparing the iPad Air and the latest Samsung Tab S8 by clicking right here. Click, 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 click. Thanks for watching.